Hey everybody, I hope you've had a good week this week. Today we're going to talk about a plant-based diet and how to get started. So, Jennifer, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing great. I'm so glad we're talking about this. So, first, I want to welcome everyone to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants. I am Jennifer. I am or holistic Jen. You may find me on different social media platforms. I am a health coach and a herbalist, a master herbalist, and I also am a nutritional endocrinology practitioner. I work on helping clients bring their body back into balance, which is something that Dan and I both learned at the School of Natural Healing. So, Dan, why don't you share a little bit about you?
Yes, I use herbs and nutrition and exercise to help people build the health of their body, detoxification through herbs, and I'm currently trying to come up with a coaching program, so I'll keep you posted.
Well, that sounds good. So, from everything that we have learned together, we learned that the body has almost like a set point. Our bodies are made to heal themselves, just like you cut yourself. You get a cut on your finger, your body knows exactly what to do to close the wound, to fight infection, and to heal. And so the same thing happens throughout our body all the time. Unfortunately, we're exposed to so many things and new things, in our modern day that were not there when man was first walking the earth. And of course, they didn't live that long because they got exposed to different things and didn't practice sanitation methods and things like that. Actually, we don't know. Sometimes they say they lived 600 years when you read the Bible. So I don't know how long they actually lived, but sometimes they died brutal deaths, killed from animals, killing each other and things like that. Which hopefully that does happen here, but hopefully that doesn't happen to any of us. But we're learning that the things that we're exposed to, the foods that we eat, are injuring our cells. We take medications which further injure our cells or block our natural ways of healing our body. And so there are certain medications we'll take, like if I just talk about like an anxiety medication or a medication for depression, it blocks certain receptors so that the body doesn't go into the next biochemical pathway, which helps you feel better, but it creates other problems because it creates a buildup of neurotransmitters and things like that in areas of the body where they shouldn't be. And so then when we try to do things like someone tries to go cold turkey, giving up meds, they have lots of problems going forward. And so we want to focus on bringing the body back into balance using foods. A lot of times medications are necessary, especially in this day and age. Like I said, we're exposed to, EMFs, chemicals in our foods. There's chemicals in the air. We're breathing chemicals. We're drinking water that has chemicals. And so our body is being inundated with these things. So sometimes there is a condition where you do need meds. But for us, we try to help people get off their meds or balance their meds or use supplements and herbs to help manage their meds so that hopefully they can go off eventually, restore the body, bring it back into balance. And one of the key things here is the amazing healing power of plants. And so we love herbs, but we also use our food to help us nourish the body, provide all the nutrients and vitamins that we need to let the body do its job of eliminating growing cells, infections, and all of those things.
Yeah, I like to point out we also like to combine herbs with a plant-based diet because the herbs work even better when you're eating a plant-based diet because
Yeah.
the diet helps to get inflammation down. It helps feed the body of more vitamins, minerals, fiber to help the bowels move. We talked about that a lot on this channel, or because it's so important. Like Jennifer's talking about, we every day we're exposed to toxins, and these toxins build up and they interfere with our body, with the normal bodies, the process of the body. So we have to. It's like a balancing act. We have to feed the body, but at the same time, make sure we're getting rid of the toxic buildup. And so
Yes. And using real whole foods. And so there's so many people that will eat foods and say, well, it's made from plants. but being made from a plant and actually being the plant is totally different. I could eat rice pasta, which is made from rice. Rice can be a healthy choice for some people, but when I turn it into a flour and into a pasta, it's the same as sugar. There's no nutrients there. It's going to cause a blood sugar spike. It's not a healthy choice. So even though it's made from plants, so it's really looking at whole foods. And so something that I think would be important is, how do you begin a plant-based diet, which is something that we really have been talking with a lot. We have a lot of clients out there who, how do you go from a standard American diet? I'm reading all this information. I'm seeing all these studies. I just watched the Blue Zone series. How do I make the switch? And so, what are some tips that you start with, Daniel?
For me, I've had clients that they went cold turkey, and most people do not succeed when they go cold turkey. They just don't. So what I say is, how about we start with meatless Mondays? I know it's a big, it's kind of a popular thing, but it does work. I say start with one day a week, plant-based, and then every week try to add another day, and I also make sure I give them homework and I give them cookbook ideas. There's a lot of great cookbooks. You have to learn how to cook. You can ask well, not, Jennifer's completely raw most of the time, but you still have to get books. You have to get recipes. You have to learn how to make these foods taste good.
Yeah. So I do eat raw in the summertime, but I do cook in the wintertime. But
Yeah.
you're right. You're going to be spending time in the kitchen, which is probably the biggest struggle for most people. It's
Yeah.
what do I eat? So I love that you said the meatless Mondays. That's how my family started. We started with meatless Mondays, and then it was meatless Mondays, and I don't remember what other day it was, maybe Thursday, and then it was 3 days, and then we just kept going. But we did meat, we didn't do dairy, and so it was probably 5 or 6 years before we gave up the dairy. Dairy, we did cold turkey after watching What the Health. So if you haven't seen What the Health, I encourage you to go and read and watch What the Health. Anyway, I forgot where I was going with that. But I love that you said that when we're
Yeah.
transitioning, we want to look at whole foods. You're going to be looking in the kitchen, but it's also, like I grew up in a meat and veg kind of world. Some people people today, they grow up in a fast food world. It's donuts or muffins for breakfast. It's a sandwich and chips or sandwich and fries for lunch. And then, dinner is, pick up or to go or something. And there may be some vegetables in dinner. And so it's looking at everything in a totally different way. You go like a close family member would say, do y'all want to come over for roast beef tonight? And I was always like, that is the weirdest thing to ask somebody. Do you want to come over for roast beef? But do you think about it? So, okay, if we have roast beef, then we're probably going to have potatoes and green beans, with the roast beef, maybe a salad. So a lot of times when I have somebody who's switching, it's like, okay, so if we're not having the meat, we can still have the green beans and the potatoes and the salad, but that meat was very high in calories, very high in fat, and it kept you full. Now, when I think about it, it grosses me out. Those strings stuck in my teeth and all that.
Yeah.
Anyway, what can I replace that meat with where I still have it's still tasty, I still have the green beans, I still have the potatoes, and I still have the salad? Well, I could have beans or I could have lentils. I could have tofu. I could have roasted vegetables if I don't feel like having beans. So there are other things. And so sometimes it's helpful for people to just replace that meat, but it's really difficult because the way I was brought up, it was meat and then what goes with it. It's hamburgers and hot dogs with, and then you figure out the sides. It's meatloaf with, and you figure out the sides. And so when we switched to whole food plant-based, it's really helpful to first think about foods that you already eat that don't have animal products in them. A lot of people will eat spaghetti with marinara sauce. Now, is spaghetti with marinara sauce healthy? That's debatable. Noodles are not healthy. There are whole food noodles. You can make zoodles, sweet potato noodles, carrot noodles, beet noodles, any of those. But for someone, switching from animal products, your first step may be just eating spaghetti with marinara, and then we'll work on the pasta later on. What do you eat? Bean burritos? bean burritos may not be the healthiest food, but that's a step from beef burritos. And so, finding things that you already eat. If breakfast, if you eat oatmeal, oatmeal's already plant-based. If you like BLT, could you eat it without the B, without the bacon, add some avocado instead of the bacon, just finding little things like that. What are you already eating that is, doesn't contain animal products? And then what would be an easy swap? For stir fries, it's very easy to throw in beans instead of meat. And so that's an easy one for me, doing stir fries. But so I don't know if that's helpful or not. If you eat beans and rice, a lot of people eat black beans and rice. If you've watched, going back to the Live to 100 series, a lot of the countries, that's what they ate, was beans and rice, or corn and beans, things like that. And I don't necessarily recommend white rice and corn for all people. Some of us do struggle with some of those, but for some people that is a healthy choice and provides lots of B vitamins and fiber as well.
Yeah, it's really good. A really good place to start. Excuse me. Another thing I like to do is I tell them, what was one of your favorite meals? Like, I don't know, let's say shepherd's pie. They like shepherd's pie. Okay. And it
Yes.
has potatoes and all those things. It has gluten, but this can be fun. Okay. So I want to make a shepherd's pie, gluten-free, vegan. There's recipes out there.
Yeah.
And what you'll find is it tastes just as good, if not better, than the one you were
Yes.
eating before, you know?
Yes. Yes. We love shepherd's pie, and ours is gluten-free vegan. But it's
Yeah.
like you said, it still has, the peas and the potatoes and all that. We just use lentils instead of the meat.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you don't tell it, you can't really tell the difference. Now, I've
Mm-mm.
been eating way for 10 years, but I've had people try some of my dishes that are not vegan and they're like, "Oh my God, this is delicious." I'm like, "Yeah, it
Right.
is." You
Yes.
know, if it
Yeah.
wasn't, I would eat like this. I'll be honest with you.
Right.
But it is.
Right.
Me and Jennifer are both food. We love food.
Hmm.
And so we're here to tell you the food we eat is amazing and
Yes.
it fills your body. So it's
Right.
a win-win.
Right. One of the easiest, or there's two, the easiest things, and what I will serve to people who are not whole food plant-based, I'll have a sushi night where I'll have like a sushi bar where, we have rice or cauliflower rice. We have chopped vegetables, in strips, cucumbers, bell peppers, avocado, roasted sweet potato fries,
Mm,
things like that. That's so easy to roll that into a piece of nori to make sushi or just to make a bowl. And so everybody has a bowl, or you could choose your own. Maybe I want a nori roll, maybe I want to make a wrap in a collard leaf, or maybe I want to put it in a bowl. And so that's great for like a buffet or a Mexican bar, where you have refried beans and black beans and maybe roasted vegetables. I'll make fajita vegetables and then salsa and guacamole. And then you could have whatever chips you like. You could have rice or Mexican rice even, and just have a Mexican bar. It's so easy to make, like a cashew cheese sauce, a nacho sauce, and things like that. If you're looking for recipes, you can go to my YouTube at Holistic Jen, and you'll find I have lots of videos making things like nacho cheese sauce and lots of whole food plant-based recipes for sushi night or Mexican night or other alternatives. One of my favorite things to do is to turn a meal into a whole food plant-based meal. Like I'll have, a client will say, "Oh, I just went out to eat and we had," like, my favorite one was poblanos. What is it that you get at a Mexican restaurant? It's like, is it stuffed poblanos or something? Rellena. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, somebody sent me a picture and said, "Can you recreate it?" And I did. So that's on my YouTube as well. I didn't mean to go off on that, but there's places to find recipes. Go to Pinterest and Google. You can find every recipe you want there on Pinterest as whole food, plant-based. But those are easy ways. But we need to talk about how these foods heal the body, help to bring the body back into balance, and how we can incorporate them with herbs to even boost healing and make healing even faster. I keep using the word heal, which may throw us off this podcast, because we are not doctors. A medical disclaimer, we are not doctors. We do not diagnose. We do not treat. We do not prescribe. We are telling you to do your own due diligence. We are providing information, educating you today. Do your own research, but we're eating food. We're eating food. A lot of our herbs are in the kitchen anyway. Think of your aromatic herbs: oregano, garlic, onion, basil, rosemary, thyme, sage. There's so much cayenne, so much medicinal properties, so many medicinal properties in these herbs that can help you with healing. And so I keep hogging the floor. So jump in there, Daniel. Where would we start if we're telling someone about the healing aspects of a whole food plant-based diet with herbs?
Well, we have to start with the gut because everything, I mean, the gut is linked to everything, right? I mean, you look at the
Amen.
research, gut, 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 gut. So how do
Yes.
plants help the gut? Well, plants have fiber, and this fiber helps feed the good gut bacteria and helps keep it a healthy population. You want to have a balance between good gut bacteria and bad. They have to have each other. So
Yes.
the plant-based meals help to keep this in balance. That's the first way the plant-based diet helps you. It also is really good at reducing inflammation in the body because inflammation is another factor that feeds most of our diseases that we have now. It also helps to balance your blood sugar, especially a lot of the fiber foods. They help the blood sugar stay stable. And of course, fiber helps you keep you regular. We talk about pooping a lot, but it's very important. So a plant-based diet, if you're constipated and you go plant-based and you make sure you drink enough water, your constipation will go away pretty quickly. So for most people,
Yes,
and go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. You can keep going because I kept talking.
No, I was just going to say the other these plant foods, they have all of our vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and meat. I mean, it has a few nutrients, but it does not have fiber. It doesn't have a lot of, antioxidants, if any, So what are you
Yeah.
going to say, Jennifer?
Well,
Go
so many
ahead.
people think meat contains fiber because you chew meat and it's fibrous and sometimes it gets in your teeth. There's no fiber in animal products. Fiber is only in plants and we need it. And something that I see in a lot of my clients is so many people are following keto. They hear so much about keto and it helps with blood sugar balancing. People start a keto diet and they start losing weight. And a lot of times it's because they've cleaned up a lot of things. They've eliminated the gluten, they've eliminated the bread and things like that. However, but when they come to me, it's because I only see the sickest of the sick usually. And it's because they have lots of gut inflammation. They have leaky gut. And one of the main things that helps your gut is resistant starches. And we get those in starchy foods. Think of the word resistant starch. So beans, potatoes, sweet potatoes, winter squashes, carrots, beets are root vegetables. So those are so important to have regardless of what dietary religion, as Dr. Rita Marie calls them, you follow, you still need these foods. And there's so many people that eat a keto diet where they don't eat any of these foods. And they're afraid of blood sugar spikes, they're afraid of weight gain. I'm going to gain weight if I eat these foods. But there are some techniques that you can use and still eat these foods too that can help reduce that. One of the biggest things is when you cook the food and then you chill the food, it changes the chemical structure. And so, like, I love potatoes. I'm a potato kid. As a kid, we would go out to eat, and Crystals is not all over everywhere, but where I grew up, our Crystals even had fried chicken and mashed potatoes. So it has the little Crystal cheeseburgers and French fries, but they also had, back in the day, fried chicken and mashed potatoes. So I would go every Sunday after church. I'd get my grandparents to take me to Crystal, and I would get French fries and mashed potatoes. I mean, I am the potato queen, and so I like to sleep potatoes. But if as someone who's had a autoimmune disease, I know I have to keep my blood sugar in balance. If my blood sugar is out of balance, I'm going to have an autoimmune flare. So how do I do that? I boil my potatoes, then I chill them, And then I make my dish from the potatoes, and it changes that chemical structure. So I don't have the blood sugar spike. I still get to eat the foods, and then I get all the benefits from those resistant starches. And I do eat them. I don't eat potatoes raw, but I will eat raw beets, raw carrots, those foods as well. It's better if you have them cooked. Some of your winter squashes you can eat raw. You can make raw noodles, but I do try to eat winter squashes. Not only for that, but also for the vitamin A. When you think of sweet potatoes and you think of winter squashes, that orangey flesh is full of beta carotene. All the different colors have different chemicals that help us with healing, help us with different things in the body. And vitamin A is something that we found to be very, very low in people with chronic health conditions, especially people with autoimmune conditions, especially with people whose digestive tracts are struggling. And we get vitamin A from beta carotene. We don't encourage you to supplement with vitamin A because it's fat soluble. But when we eat those orange foods, then we translate or transfer that beta carotene into vitamin A. But another key factor is we have to have a healthy gut to make these transitions. In our gut, we make these vitamins and we absorb vitamins and minerals and in different areas of the gut. And so we need it all to be intact. And so eating these resistant starches, mushrooms, foods high in beta glucans, which are your oats and your mushrooms and your starchy vegetables and all the different colors, we're providing our body with these vitamins and minerals. And then when we combine them with the herbs, we help that as well. And so I just love that you said you started with the digestive system, because we have to think about our digestive system. You think about with your mouth, it's moist. You think about your nose, it's moist. This is all one tube that goes from your mouth and your nose all the way down to your anus, your urinary tract. And it all is lined with this mucus, which sounds disgusting. We think that word's disgusting, but there's herbs that can help us to build up the mucus. But then we hear, wait, I'm not supposed to have mucus. Well, we need the right balance. We don't want too much. We don't want to be coughing stuff up. We don't want to be having the runny nose, but we can help balance that out with a lot of our herbs. So do you want to talk about some of the herbs that are great for that?
Yes, I'll start with the slippery elm is one of my favorites. If you have any kind of digestive problems, or especially ulcerative conditions like, IBS is really prevalent now, probably because of a lot of these keto-based diets. I don't
Right.
know, but that's a good one. Slippery elm is a good mucilaginous herb. I like marshmallow root. That's another one. I like aloe vera. A lot of people don't talk about aloe, but I do like aloe vera. That's a good one.
Mhm.
Licorice is also good, but if you do have high blood pressure, I would say monitor your blood pressure if you're going to take it, because some people do have a problem with their blood pressure going up. My mother did. I had her on licorice root at one time. Her blood pressure did go up. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
And
I would
I love all
if,
those too.
go ahead,
No,
Jennifer.
keep going.
Those are the ones I stick with. So I don't really, what, what are some other ones? Do you use any ones that are different than those, or?
I was just thinking, I mean, I think you've nailed them all, marshmallow, slippery elm, aloe. Those are my go-tos.
Yeah.
There are some others that can help, but I don't think of them as being as mucilaginous. There's some foods like chia seeds. You don't want to ever eat them dry. You could soak them, like making overnight chia pudding or porridge, or grind them up. That's a great way to eat your chia seeds and flax seeds. Those are also very mucilaginous as well, but you want to grind them. You don't want to eat them dry, because especially flax seeds, they have that hard shell. And so you need to break it so you can absorb those nutrients. But I think the seeds are so important too. And so it's not just fruits and vegetables we're talking about. It's fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. And for some people, grains are important too. I think a lot of people, like we keep saying, everything begins in the gut.
Yeah.
And that is so true. If you're suffering from a neurological condition, mental health condition, those neurotransmitters are signaled from the gut. There's a gut-brain axis. You're suffering with autoimmune condition. Well, how are those proteins getting through the body? They're getting through a leaky gut. And so it really does. We have to really work on the gut. And another thing is working on stress management. And so I know that's not a part of a whole food plant-based diet, but you can eat all the right foods. But if you're highly stressed out all day long, you never stop to take a break, you eat your food in a rush, you don't chew well, that's going to create inflammation. It's going to create leaky gut. And so you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. And so it's important to also, chew, put your fork down when you're eating and chew, say a prayer or a blessing or a moment of silence before you eat. Really be in the moment when you eat as well. And so eating these delicious, healing, colorful, healthy foods, combining them with these herbs in different ways too. You can do there are different sources you can use. The herbs we talked about today are generally safe for everyone. Like you said, like for some people, licorice root may not be right for everyone, but slippery elm, I mean, that's commonly used with children. Marshmallow, commonly used with children. And so do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Don't ever take just one person's word for it. But look at these foods as part of your healing journey, part of your health journey, and in starting your whole food plant-based diet. So we haven't talked a lot about some of the other healing foods. Do you want to talk about some of the healing foods?
Yes, I would have to start with the green vegetables. I mean, I I think the green vegetables, I would say it's one of the most important food groups. I really, because they have all your minerals, they have a lot of vitamins. They also help your body produce nitric oxide, which opens up your arteries and blood vessels. So if you have high blood pressure, greens can really help you there because they help to open those pathways or open the arteries, improves blood flow, and you get a lot of vitamin K and calcium because calcium is an important nutrient, but a lot of people can fall short eating plant-based if they don't include their greens because greens are full of calcium.
Right.
So
I second that. And sometimes greens are mucilaginous. If you chop up, like we have different forms of spinach here on our farm. Malamar spinach, especially, is a a spinach that we'll have, and it's got a thicker leaf. And when you chop it, it's actually kind of slimy. And so sometimes your greens are even slimy. But yes, so healing. Greens are definitely number one on my list as well.
I do like the sweet potato. I think that the sweet potato has a lot of healing properties. It's actually not a potato, it's a root vegetable, but they call it a potato.
Right.
But it has, like Jennifer was saying, a lot of beta carotene. And I think I've even seen studies where it can actually help prevent cancer because it has so many antioxidants and
The
it's very
superfood.
anti-inflammatory. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be considered a superfood. Yeah. Yeah, I love sweet potatoes too. Yeah, I second that one as well. Yeah. I
And
think um,
and Jennifer, you've been watching the Blue Zone documentary on Netflix,
yes,
and all those people have one thing in common: beans. They all eat beans, right?
they do. Yes, yeah, the Japanese have the soybeans. The Greeks, all the Mediterranean beans. Costa Rica has the black beans. They had a lot of beans and corn. Yeah, this Seventh Day Adventist, they didn't really talk about their beans, but um they're mostly vegetarian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
All
they
of them are whole
deserve
food
on the
plant-based.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's some other foods?
Let me see. Let's see. Greens are definitely number one. How about berries?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, berries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. You look anytime you can find a food that's that deep purple color, that is wonderful for your brain and your heart. And those are anthocyanins. And so those are fabulous. But your berries are so high in antioxidants. We hear about things like resveratrol, which is wonderful for the heart and the brain as well. And people will say, "Oh, I drink my wine for that," which you could argue is a plant-based food. And when they talked about the Greek islands, wine was a big one there. They used traditional methods where, back from biblical times, actually, they had the same systems set up with no added chemicals, no preservatives, no sulfites, and all that. And so maybe there's something there. I don't agree with that for healing. Alcohol definitely does not help anyone with healing. But you would have to drink a lot of wine. Like I can't remember how many bottles it was, but tons of bottles of wine to get the amount of resveratrol that they use in their studies. And so instead of drinking 100 bottles of wine, which you can't do anyway. Well, how about we eat the grapes that the resveratrol came from in the wine? And so, eating the grapes, eating the blueberries and stuff like that. If you have blood sugar problems, grapes may not be right for you until you get your body in balance. Once you get your body in balance, you can eat these other foods. But if you're on a healing journey, blood sugar has to be in balance. And so it's all individualized. There's no protocol. It's finding the foods that are right for you. For some men can tolerate them better than women, depending on where a woman is in her aging cycle. And so there's different things like that to look at too. It's all very individualized. It all depends on you, your genes, your past experiences, foods you're exposed to, your gut bacteria, which we didn't really talk a lot about, but all those things come into play as well. But whenever I'm looking for healing foods, greens are number one. Vibrant colors are another thing that I look for. Root vegetables, which we talked about for the resistant starches to feed the gut bacteria, and the all the different colors.
And I would throw, we already talked about it, but especially if you're completely plant-based, I do believe the seeds are very important, like you were already saying.
Yes.
Flax seeds, chia seeds. I like hemp hearts. They have a lot of protein and omegas. You get a lot of omega-3s from your flax seeds and your chia seeds, which is very anti-inflammatory, and your body has to have it. It's actually an essential nutrient. So we have to get it from our food.
Yes. Thank you
And
so
really,
much for saying
you have
that.
to go ahead.
No,
I
I was
just,
just saying thank you.
yeah, the thing about well, we talked about it before, but keeping your omega-3s to your omega-6s in balance. If you're doing plant-based diet, you really need to watch your vegetable oils because that's the quickest way to throw that balance off. If you eat a lot of oil, your omega-6 to 3 is it's going to be way off. And that causes inflammation in the body. So I don't eat any oil anymore because I even talked to a doctor. He's a Dr. Garth, I believe. I talked to him one time about it, and he said that if you want to keep your threes healthy to your sixes, you have to do away with oil completely because the oils have so many omega sixes in them, it just overwhelms the threes you get from the flax seeds. So that's just one thing I would throw in.
Yes, yes. And another thing is a lot of people will switch to almond everything. Almonds are a delicious, healthy nut. However, if we go to almond milk and almond-based yogurts and eat almonds as snacks, and we're not eating these omega-3, so almonds are very high in omega-6s, and we're not eating the omega-3 seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, and even walnuts, then we can have a balance off as well. And that balance is what helps with inflammation. You want to curb inflammation, and you curb that by focusing on these omega-3s. So we hear about fish oil in the non-plant-based world. Now you can be plant-based and still have a little bit of animal products. I don't. I choose not to, because sometimes animal products are inflammatory for people. But you can still call yourself whole food plant-based, like some of the blue zones where they still use meat as a condiment. The meal is not centered around it. It's just a little bit of meat here and there, where the vegetables take up the majority of the food. But I forgot where I was going with that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know where I was going with that. I wanted to talk about the whole food plant-based diet. I don't know.
Yeah. It really important to keep those in balance because if you're off, it can, you have a greater risk of heart disease, even cancers, because inflammation drives all these diseases. I mean, there's always an inflammation component. So, and if you want to talk
Yes.
about that diet, he really makes sure they don't have any oil because he found that the oil keeps the heart disease prevalent. But if you take the oil out, then the heart disease starts to regress. So, and I really don't, and see, if you eat out, it's really hard to
Yes.
avoid oil. So,
Well, that's what I remember I was going to say is in that world, we hear fish oil. So we hear fatty
uh,
fish, salmon, and things like that. But if you don't eat those things, then you definitely need to have the walnuts, the chia seeds, the flax seeds, chlorella, spirulina.
oh yeah.
Those are what's so important if you're not having the fatty fishes in the fish oil. And so fish oil is a common thing. Everybody's heard about taking fish oil. Well, if you're not eating animal products, you don't want to take the fish oil, the omega-3s, omega-6s. I mean, the omega-3s from your hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, walnuts, chlorella, and spirulina can help with that.
There's also algae oil, but if you're eating everything she just said, I won't waste my money on it.
Right, right. And making sure you're eating those in a larger proportion than the other things. So, like, you can have the almond milk or the almond yogurt, but you want to make sure you're having the omega-3 foods as well.
Yeah, so balancing act. Every day I have at least 2 tablespoons of flax seeds just to make sure I stay in balance.
Me too. Yeah, I have chia seeds, flax seeds, and usually hemp seeds too every
Yeah.
day. Hmm. Yeah. So I
Um,
think that probably wraps up this episode. It's definitely something we can continue talking about at another time.
oh yeah.
Yes, but I just want to thank you for joining us today. We love to hear from our listeners, so please comment. Let us know what else you would like to learn. Correct us when you think we were wrong. We want to hear the good and the bad. We want to make sure that our podcast um, serves you and provides information for you. And we'd love to hear from our listeners. So hit subscribe, share with your friends, and let us know that you are listening. Thank you for joining us.